and keeping well. Om Gyanantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Manu Das invited me to speak today, and of course over the Dublin Facebook page, as we've been doing for a long time now, about a year. Today my talk will be entitled Recognizing God, the Divine Qualities, Part 3. Most of this is taken from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, otherwise known more popularly as the Nectar of Devotion, written by Rupa Goswami, a disciple of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Prabhupada has done a summary study and translation of that book called The Nectar of Devotion. The divine qualities of Krishna are 64 in number. He possesses all of these qualities in full or infinite measure. The first 50 qualities can be manifest in jivas, souls like us, or devotees, as well as in Krishna, but in a finite measure. These qualities are present in God in an infinite measure because God is infinite in scope, and they are present in us in a finite measure. So how do we become godly or divine in nature? How do we become more spiritual? We become more spiritualized by developing these qualities. So far we've gone through 34 of the qualities, and now we will begin at number 33. It's a long list, 64 altogether. Number 33, respectful. Prabhupada points this out. He says, when superior persons assembled before Krishna, when Krishna was on the planet 5,000 years ago, Krishna had his avatar as Krishna. Although he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he also comes down once in a day of Brahma, around noon in Brahma's time. And what is that? 4,320,000,000 years is the length of Brahma's day, if I recall correctly. So he was here just like yesterday, 5,000 years ago. So when superior persons assembled before Krishna, Krishna first of all offered respect to his spiritual master, then to his father, then to his elder brother, Balaram, etc., on down the line. So what does that mean for us? We must be respectful to all persons, especially those who are older or are in senior positions. When Prabhupada was here, I remember very clearly, he told us, he says he would speak very boldly to various clergymen and doctors and professors whom he was meeting with or having an interview with, and that sort of thing. And he would confront them, to sort of call them on their philosophy or their how they saw life. He wouldn't mind challenging them. He's very effective at it, let me tell you. Which you can listen to. You can hear those kinds of interviews. They're available. You can hear him speak. But he would tell us that, he says, it's all right for him to speak in this way, but you cannot do, he would say. And the reason is because we're mostly in our 20s. And these were people of position and respect and reputation. So he would caution us, I can do, you cannot do, like this. But now that I'm 70, maybe I can do. I don't know. So what else does this mean? Being respectful. We have learned from the philosophy that with Sarvasya Chaham Redi Sannivishto, that God as Paramatma, super soul, Atma, we are Atma, soul. Within the heart is the Atma, soul, and the Parama Atma, super soul, God in the heart. So therefore, we have to offer respect to whom? To everyone. Why? Because God resides in the hearts of everyone. For that reason alone, we have to offer respect. Just humans? Just people? No. Animals too. This is the primary reason we do not kill and eat animals, because God is in the heart within these animals as well. So unless you want to sit down with an animal that you plan to eat and talk it over with him and ask him if he's willing to give up his body for you so you can eat it and he can die and his body, when life will come to an end, if he agrees, I guess there'd really be no problem. But unless and until you have this discussion with this animal, this pig or chicken, then really we must be respectful, even to the animals. Number 34, gentle. Krishna is gentle. Prabhupada says, as a child, Krishna's job was to take the calves out to graze in the forests of Vrindavan daily. Krishna was gentle and loving toward all the animals, as well as to the gopas, the cowherd boys, and the gopis, the cowherd girls. And this means also the adult cowherd men and cowherd women. So what does this mean for us? We must become gentle and sensitive souls so that we can offer compassion to the gentle and sensitive souls for whom this world is too cold, too harsh, and unrefined. There are many, many souls in this world, certainly not the majority. They are a minority, for whom this world is too dense, too thick, too unrefined. They have a very hard time, some of these souls in this world. So we need to become aware of that, sensitive to that. As devotees of God, devotees of Krishna, we must be able to offer them shelter to those who are suffering in this ruthless world of birth and death. Number 35, liberal. Prabhupada explains, in the story of the Shamantaka jewel, Krishna was so kind and liberal that although King Satyajit, his subordinate, was accused of great offenses, Krishna did not take this into consideration. He simply considered the service that had been rendered by his devotee. So rather than focusing on Satyajit's offenses, he decided to focus on the service that he offered instead. Satyajit lived near Dwarka. He was a king. He had his own kingdom. He was a great devotee of the sun god, Suryadev. And due to his devotion, his prayers, his penances, his puja, he was given the Shamantaka jewel by the sun god, a fabulous gem that was so bright. When he wore the jewel around his neck on a chain, everybody thought he was the sun god himself, but he wasn't. Not only that, by having the jewel in his possession, he would get a huge quantity of gold. The jewel would manifest a huge quantity of gold every day. Not bad, huh? Krishna thought that since this was the most valuable jewel on the planet, apparently at that time, he thought that Satyajit should preferentially offer the jewel to King Ugrasen, who was the Maharaj, the king of the Yadu dynasty at that time, Krishna's dynasty family. And Satyajit did not want to do that. Well, there's a bunch of other things that happened, which I won't get into because it's a bit long and involved. So then ultimately, when all was sort of said and done, Krishna summoned Satyajit to the royal assembly. And after recounting to him the entire story, how the Shamantaka jewel was recovered because it was lost for a time, and Krishna had recovered it, he gave the jewel back to the king, Satyajit, who accepted the jewel, but with great shame and remorse. He went back to his home, and there he decided to offer Krishna not only the jewel itself, so he had to go home and think about it first, not only the jewel itself, but also his daughter, so as to atone for the offense he had committed against the Lord's lotus feet, his daughter in marriage. Sri Krishna accepted the hand of Satyajit's daughter, Satyabhama, who was endowed with all divine qualities. But the jewel, he refused and returned it to Satyajit. So Krishna was very liberal in his dealings with Satyajit. So what does it mean for us? We shouldn't be too quick to judge others, my friends. We're very quick to point out faults and flaws. I certainly know I am by nature. I have a very critical nature. I blame it on my ability to see what needs to be fixed when I can see it or to be changed. But that really doesn't give me scope for criticism. So we don't always, and furthermore, we don't always need to punish people for every offense that they make toward us or toward others. A devotee is forgiving. Remember Hare Thakur, because the Muslim king who was in charge in, I guess it was in West Bengal at the time, or maybe it's Bangladesh now, but anyway, he had been Muslim and he converted from Islam to become a Vaishnava, a devotee of Vishnu, a Hindu, in other words, is how most people look at it, even though technically we don't see ourselves as Hindus, we're Vaishnavas. And therefore, the king ordered that he be punished in 22 marketplaces. That means in marketplaces means punished out in public, in the middle of the marketplace, so everybody can see this is what happens to people who do what this guy did, to convert to Hinduism or Vedanta, Bhagavad Dharma. And what's interesting about this story is that once you get beat, once they start beating you, I mean, you got 4 or 5 guys beating you, you die, period. They beat him to death. That's what happens, usually in the first marketplace. If you go to the second, that's something. Well, Haridas Thakur, because he was so deeply devoted to the holy name and to Krishna, he didn't die. So they ended up beating him in 22 marketplaces. He still didn't die. And then they broke down the soldiers that were beating him, broke down in tears and said, "We're going to be put to death because we didn't kill you like we were supposed to. Please have mercy on us and at least pretend you're dead so we don't get killed," really. And so he put himself into the river, Haridas Thakur, and he floated there as though he were dead, which was convincing enough. And the soldiers, the beating crew, didn't get punished. So anyway, we don't need always to punish people for offenses. Number 36 of the devotional qualities, the divine qualities of God. Shy, reserved, self-effacing. Prabhupada points out a person who exhibits humility and modesty is called shy. The great example of this, the great story from the Mahabharata, was when Krishna had tried to effect diplomacy to stave off the war, the battle of Kurukshetra between the Kauravas and the Pandavas. His diplomacy failed, apparently. And Duryodhana came to Dwarka to ask Krishna's favor, to seek Krishna's favor, and arrived there. And shortly thereafter, Arjuna also arrived seeking Krishna's favor. So Duryodhana was the head person here in terms of the Kauravas, so-called bad guys, the antagonists in the story. And Arjuna was the great hero, the bowsman, the archer, and the hero of the protagonists, one of the 5 Pandava brothers. So Duryodhana arrived first in the afternoon. Krishna was having a nap on his bed. Duryodhana was admitted into his bedroom, and he went and he stood right at the head of the bed where Krishna's head was lying sleeping, so that he was thinking that when Krishna opened his eyes, he'd see him, and there they would be. So he didn't disturb him, but he stood there. And then a few minutes later, Arjuna entered. And Arjuna said, "Oh, Duryodhana, you're here. Arjuna, what are you doing here?" "I've come to ask Krishna a favor." "I too have come to ask Krishna a favor." So Arjuna situated himself at the foot of the bed. Foot shows what? Shyness, reserve, being self-effacing, humility. So when Krishna woke up, who did he see first? He saw Arjuna at the foot of the bed. So when he discovered that they both came there to ask his favor, to benefit their side in the coming battle, Arjuna said, "Well, okay, Arjuna, I looked at you first, and I'll give you first choice." Duryodhana says, No, Krishna, I was here first." And Krishna says, "But I didn't see you first. I saw Arjuna first." Why did he see him first? Because Arjuna was self-effacing. And he took his position of humility at the foot of the bed, not the head. So Arjuna got first choice. As we know, we certainly know what happened then. Krishna gave his 1 million man army to Duryodhana. And Arjuna did not want the 1 million man army. Krishna offered to drive his chariot for him, but he said, "I will not fight. I will not fight on behalf of either side, either combatant, but I will drive your chariot." And Arjuna's thinking, because he got first choice, well, 1 million man army or God driving my chariot? That's a tough one. What would you pick? Yes, Krishna, please, thank you so much. You be my Parthasarati, my rati, my charioteer. And that's what happened. So for us, what does it mean? Avoid exhibiting self-importance. Even when you do something wonderful or you're getting praise from various people, that's all well and good. You can say thank you. When somebody says something nice to me, when I'm doing Vedic astrology and I get a good comment from one of my clients, I simply say thank you for your kind words. But to puff yourself up and think you're self-superior or look at me, no, it's not necessary, because all that does is inflate the ego. We are here to dissolve the ego, friends, not inflate the ego. We are here to inflate and expand the soul, the true self, the Atman, not the ego, not the Ahankar. Okay. Number 37. Protector of surrendered souls. Krishna is the protector of surrendered souls. Prabhupada says, Sarva Dharman Parityaja. He's quoting now Bhagavad Gita, the famous verse. What is it, 1866, I think? Sarva Dharman Parityaja. Mam ekam sharanam vraja. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo. Mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. Abandon all paths of virtuous action and just surrender unto me. I will free you from all sinful reactions. Do not worry. Ma shuchaha. Do not worry. Take me at my word. That's what Krishna is saying. So if you surrender to God, if you know that you cannot control everything and you cannot always dig yourself out of a hole, look at what's happening this past year in this COVID situation. People's lives have been derailed. Some people have become deranged, depressed, despondent. It's disrupted so much in life. Mm-hmm. So what to turn to? Hundreds, thousands of businesses going out of business, millions of people out of work. Who do we depend on? Who do we take shelter of? The protector of surrendered souls, God, Krishna. Prabhupada continues, Krishna is sometimes compared to the moon, which does not hesitate to distribute its soothing rays, even on the houses of the villains and the rogues. What to speak of the good souls? So what does this one mean for us, protector of surrendered souls? People in this world are suffering so much due to lack of true understanding of how this world really works. And they're plagued by fears, most prominently the fear of what, my friends? The fear of death. They need the protection of spiritual knowledge and true enlightenment that awakened and realized souls can provide. Can all souls provide this? No. Not unless you've become awakened spiritually and subsequently have become realized spiritually. This is our duty, to provide this for the long-suffering world, especially now, in these times. Another point worth mentioning is spiritual advancement is measured by the reduction of fear and the expansion of faith. You want to take stock of how advanced you're becoming spiritually? Very simple, my friends. Very easy to do. Compare fear and faith. That's how you do it. If you have this many fears and this much faith, you're not very advanced. No offense. If you're getting more like this, well, we're doing better. We're doing better. So we need this, the faith, to come up. When all the fears have gone, including the fear of death, and there's nothing left but faith, faith in God, faith in your connection, you're pretty much there. That's how it works. Number 38. Happy. Krishna's happy. When? All the time. He doesn't get out of bed in a bad mood. Huh? He doesn't let things get him down. We all let things get us down. I mean, who among us has not let something get us down? Especially, again, I say, in this last year. So Prabhupada points out, any person who is always joyful and untouched by any distress is called happy. And then he quotes Bhagavad Gita 2:14. Matra sparshas kaunteya, shitoshna sukha dukkada, agama payino nityas, Tongues to tikshasva bharata. Tongues to tikshasva. Try to tolerate without being disturbed. So what's the translation? The non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of the winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception only, Arjuna, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So what does that mean? We must learn to tolerate anything and everything, anyone and everyone, without being disturbed. Correct. Brahmabhuta prasannatma. When one has reached the stage of Brahmabhuta, he is prasannatma. The soul is always joyful, always happy, unaffected by the material modes of nature, by the material waves, happiness and distress. So what does it mean for us? Happy. Always be pleasant and friendly toward all. And avoid riding the waves of these mood swings. You know what? People who have mood swings, I don't mean occasionally, I mean regularly. These are people who are suffering a negative mother complex. They have a negative mother complex from childhood that hasn't been resolved. And the mother, it's like Mahakali running amok in the cremation grounds with her chopper. The mood that it creates. And people just get angry and frustrated, and they start taking it out on strangers, friends, employees, family members. These people who beat their wives, these men who beat their wives, because they're what? Frustrated, unhappy, sad. These are mood swings. This is men who have a negative relationship with the mother figure in the psyche, in the subconscious. Then also try to avoid itemizing all your problems, and we're still talking about happiness. Try to avoid itemizing all your problems and suffering when speaking to others. Hey, John, how you doing? Oh my God. Don't get me started here. This happened, that happened, so-and-so said this, so-and-so said that, this, that, the other. I'm overwhelmed. Yeah. Well, don't become the victim. Don't become the martyr. There are only three roles in life: victim, victimizer, and victor. The only one worth being is the victor. 95% of the world is made up of victims and victimizers. You can't have a victim without a victimizer. You can't have a victimizer without a victim. You don't believe me? Watch the news. A victor victimizes no one and is victimized by no one. This is the win-win situation. Good for you, good for everybody else. We don't mean, when I'm talking about martyrdom, I don't mean positive martyrdom, sacrifices made out of love, such as parents make for their children. This is how the world works. It's how God made it. It's natural. We're talking about sacrifices made out of guilt, when guilt is being used to manipulate you by loved ones, by family, by you, perhaps, by the boss, who knows. Okay, don't worry, be happy, like the song says. 39, well-wisher of the devotees, that is God, the ever well-wisher. Prabhupada signed all his letters, your ever well-wisher, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. I loved it, I always loved it. What more could you be than someone's ever well-wisher? This is the best you could be, right? So Krishna is the well-wisher of the devotees. Prabhupada explains, It is said of Krishna's devotees that if they offer even a little water, fruit, patram pushpam phalam toyam, yome bhaktya prayachati taravam bhakti paritam ashnami prayatatmana. A little water, fruit, or tulsi leaf to Krishna with devotion. He's so kind that he will accept their devotional offering and give what in exchange? He'll give himself in exchange. Why? Because you're offering. What? He needs the leaf, the flower, the fruit? No, he doesn't need it. He needs your love. He wants your love. That's what he's accepting. And in exchange for that, he will give you his very self, my friends. Prabhupada continues, Krishna's favoritism toward his devotees was exhibited in his fight with Bhishma during the Battle of Kurukshetra. When Grandfather Bhishma was lying at the point of death on the bed of arrows at the end of the battle, the arrows had shot through him. I mean, he was riddled with arrows. And the points were behind him, so they lay him down on this bed, and the points were going into the ground. That was his bed of arrows. I have at home a lovely, lovely painting, huge painting of what I'm about to tell you. When when he was lying on the bed of arrows, Krishna was present before him, came before him. And Bhishma was remembering how Krishna had been kind to him on the battlefield. Krishna had promised that in the Battle of Kurukshetra, he would not even touch a single weapon to help either side. Even though he was driving Arjuna's chariot, he would not. He would remain neutral. Although Krishna was Arjuna's charioteer, he had promised that he would not help even Arjuna by using any weapons. But one day, Bhishma, in order to nullify Krishna's promise, exhibited such a fighting spirit and so magnificently fought against Arjuna that Krishna was obliged to get down from his chariot. Obliged out of friendship and love. Got down from his chariot, he took up a broken chariot wheel and he ran toward Grandfather Bhishma to bash him with this wheel. As a lion runs toward an elephant to kill it, but he stopped himself. He did not strike Bhishma. Bhishma remembered this scene and he later praised Krishna for his glorious favoritism toward his devotee, Arjuna, and also to himself, because Bhishma was also a great devotee, by not attacking Bhishma even at the risk of breaking his own promise. The painting I have is him, Krishna, rushing toward Bhishma with the wheel. So what does this mean for us, the well-wisher of devotees? For us, we must treat our fellow devotees, our God brothers, our God sisters, our devotional friends, etc., with the utmost respect and encouragement. We must try to remember that these persons are very rare souls, my friends, who are consciously trying to take shelter of Krishna's grace and free themselves from the wheel of samsara, repeated birth and death. Samsara davana lalita loka tranaya karunya gana ganatvam. All of us need all the encouragement we can get. That is our duty to Krishna's devotees. Number 40, controlled by love. Krishna is controlled by love. How are you going to control God, do you think? By love, my friends. Can you think of a better way to control God? You're going to force him to do something because you're a CEO of a big company. Maybe you're the CEO of Davy Stockbrokers. That's an in-joke for those of you who aren't here in Ireland. The largest stockbroker in Ireland has just collapsed due to greed and fraud. Anyway, side issue. Krishna becomes obliged to the loving spirit of the devotee, Prabhupada says, and not exactly to the service rendered. He becomes obliged to the loving spirit of the devotee, not exactly to the service rendered. No one can serve Krishna completely. He is so complete and so self-sufficient that he has no need of any service from the devotee. It is the devotee's attitude of love and affection for Krishna that makes him obliged. Like he showed himself obliged to Arjuna and to Bhishma. A very nice example of this obligatory behavior was manifested when Sudama Vipra went to Krishna's palace. Sudama Vipra had been a school friend of Krishna's in his childhood. And due to his poverty, he was a very poor Brahmin. He was born in a Brahmin family, a priestly family. And due to his poverty, he was induced by his wife to visit Krishna in Dwarka to request some help, some aid. I mean, he had threadbare garments, virtually rags he was wearing. He had nothing. So he didn't want to go there, but at the behest of his wife, he went to Krishna's palace to visit him. And when Sudama Vipra reached his palace, Krishna received him very, very well, very happily. They hadn't seen him for so long, and both he and his wife Rukmini washed the feet of Sudama Vipra, and which showing respect to a Brahmin. This is what you do when you have a very, a highly regarded personality like a guru figure or a highly regarded spiritual person. Washing the feet it shows great respect. So they both did it. Remembering his loving friendship with Sudama in their childhood, Krishna began to shed tears as he received him. And then there's another quote from the Bhagavatam, 10th canto. It's wonderful. Krishna speaking to the gopis from Vrindavan in Rajabhumi. O gopis, I'm not able to repay my debt for your spotless service, even within a lifetime of Brahma. So if Brahma's day is 4,320,000,000 years, and he lives 100 years. There, confound yourself with that calculation. Be my guest. So Krishna continues, your connection with me is beyond reproach. You have worshipped me, cutting off all domestic ties, which are difficult to break. Therefore, please let your own glorious deeds be your compensation. Wonderful. You have worshipped me, cutting off all domestic ties, which are difficult to break. Oh my goodness, are they not ever difficult to break? They're extremely difficult to break, my friends. And we have to break them. Does that mean we have to renounce our families and become sannyasis, renunciates? Not necessarily. Is not necessarily suitable in this day and age for most of us. But we must develop detachment. It doesn't mean we stop loving, but we become less involved and caught up in family life. The more we, not neglectful, but we need to focus, especially getting up into this age that I'm at, 60s, 70s, 80s, we need to be focused on God. Because we're closer to the end than we are to the beginning, my friends. And unless you want to take another birth and have another family, which I don't recommend, then, so that's what he said to the gopis. And he said, I can't even repay what you've done for me, your spotless service, he calls it. Why is it spotless? Because it's unmotivated. Akama sarvakamo va mokshkamo udaradi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. whether akama, whether you have no desires, sarva kama, whether you're riddled with desire, sarva kama, moksha kama, whether your desire is for moksha, for liberation. One should tivrena bhakti yogena, with focused intent bhakti, devotion. Yajeta purusham param. One should worship the purusham param, Supreme Person. Beautiful. Number 41. Krishna is all auspicious. A person who is always engaged in auspicious, this is Prabhupada explaining to us, a person who is always engaged in auspicious welfare activities for everyone is known as all auspicious. After the disappearance of Lord Krishna from this planet, Uddhava, Krishna's cousin, Uddhava's wonderful, wonderful soul. So wherever you read about Uddhava, and in the 11th canto of the Bhagavad Gita, the Uddhava Gita. Beautiful. Uddhava began to remember the activities of the Lord. As is after Krishna disappeared, and he said, Krishna satisfied all great sages by his wonderful pastimes. He demolished the cruel and harmful activities of the barbaric royal order. He protected all pious people and killed all ruthless warriors on the battlefield. Therefore, he is all auspicious for all people. He protected the good and killed off the demoniac, the villains. So what does this mean for us? How do we become all auspicious? We must learn to become loving and all auspicious toward whom? Toward everyone. Very difficult to do, my friends. We must learn to love unconditionally. Beyond race, color, creed, everything. Beyond all of these designations. Love for the sake of love. We talked earlier about loving the devotees and being good to the fellow devotees. Yes, of course, very important. These are high souls. But we must learn to love everyone unconditionally. A devotee is compassionate to everyone. And Prabhupada mentions in 7th canto, in the story of Nrsingadev, he says that Prahlad, the son of Hiranyakashipu, who was such a wonderful devotee from even when he was in the womb, and then his father was trying to educate him to become a rank materialist, like his father, the big demon Hiranyakashipu was, who was actually controlling the universe at that point in time. Very powerful yogi. Prabhupada says Prahlad was always Paradukkha Dukhi. We must become like Prahlad. Paradukkha Dukhi. Those who feel suffering when seeing the suffering of others. Those who suffer upon seeing the suffering of others. Paradukkha Dukhi. Wow. Can you imagine? Honestly, friends, I'm not that advanced. I don't even know what that's like. I wonder if I'm going to get there in this lifetime. It's just something so sublime to strive for. To tell you what happened a few days ago. It's kind of a funny story. I did my predictions on the Vedic Astrological yearly chart predictions last spring. I have to get the one done for this coming year. This coming year, it begins April 11th for the Vedic lunar yearly chart. Shukla Chaitra Paksha, I think they call it. Anyway, so I predicted that Trump would win. I predicted every U.S. presidential election since 1980 accurately, except this year. Actually, I think I did predict it accurately. because I think the election was hijacked. Now, don't get me wrong, my friends. I know there's a lot of Trump haters out there. I am not attached to Trump. I'm not attached to Joe Biden. In fact, I wouldn't vote for either of them. I don't think they're suitable as presidential material, but that's beside the point. Anyway, so this person, Miguel, just a couple of days ago, he writes a comment on my prediction on my YouTube channel. He says, "Charlatan," in capital letters. You're a charlatan. And then 89 exclamation marks behind it, right? So I said, what did I say to him? I said, "Dear Miguel, thank you for your encouraging words. I sincerely hope you and your family are well and safe during this difficult time. Warm regards." So, most people, as soon as somebody criticizes them, they go into defensive mode. "Oh, yeah, well, you're this. Yeah, well, let me tell you about you, my friend." And off we go. What's the point? What's the point? You want to disarm people? You just treat them nicely and treat them respectfully and say kind words. Nothing's more disarming than that, believe me. Okay, number 42. Krishna is the most powerful of all. Hello, he's God. Mm-hmm. What does he say? "With a single spark of my nature, I pervade and support this entire universe." So, Prabhupada says, "A person who can always repel his enemy is called powerful." Krishna had a lot of enemies when he was here. He was in a lot of battles, not the Battle of Kurukshetra, but there were many other battles. There were many cruel kings and manipulative characters on the earth at that time. Prabhupada continues, "When Krishna was present on this planet, just as the powerful sun drives away darkness and causes it to take shelter in caves, he drove away all his enemies who fled like owls to take shelter beyond his sight." So, what does that mean for us? Most powerful. That we should become the most powerful? Not exactly. There's two kinds of power, my friends. There's power over people, and there's power on behalf of people. Many people, due to ego, due to demoniac nature, lower nature, want to have control over others. They want power and position of control and authority over others, so they can manipulate them, take advantage of them, overwork them. That's exactly what's happening now with this whole COVID business. What do you think all this is? That's what it is. It's a small group of people trying to take control over everybody. I'll maybe talk about a little bit more about it later on. I explained it in detail last time I spoke in the talk entitled Dhruva Maharaj, Trapped in the Valley of the Yakshas. Anyway, we as devotees, hopefully enlightened people, do not want to have power over people. If you want positions of power and authority, or if you have them, wonderful. Now you can act on behalf of people to raise them up, to help them out, to help them get certain needs, desires, things fulfilled that they need. More importantly than anything is to enlighten them. What's more important? So those are the two kinds of power. Over people or on behalf of people. Number 43, all famous. A person who becomes, Prabhupada, who becomes well known due to his spotless character is called famous. It is stated that the diffusion of Krishna's fame is like moonshine, which turns darkness into light. In other words, if Krishna consciousness, God consciousness, is spread all over the world, the darkness of ignorance and the anxiety of material existence will turn into the whiteness of purity, peacefulness, and prosperity. God, Krishna, is the most famous person in both the material world and the spiritual worlds. Now, for us, what does it mean, all famous? Well, nowadays, there's a lot of people out there that want fame for fame's sake. I just want to be famous. Oh my goodness, so many people out there just wanting to be famous. For what? Famous for what? Like the Kardashians? For no known accomplishments or no special talents? I'm on TV. Don't you want to see what I'm doing with my family? Not really. Your fame should emanate from your acts of service to humanity, my friends. Not from where you go on holiday, what kind of car you drive, or because you had a sex change. No. In what way have your actions made this world a better place, my friends? Be they great or small actions, does not matter. In what way have they made this world a better place? And if you can see, if you can trace various actions that you have done in this world to make it exactly that, a better place, on to whatever degree, that's it. And if you're being recognized for it, wonderful. If you're not, it doesn't matter. Somebody's watching. Number 44, God is popular. Most popular. Prabhupada says, any person who is very dear to people in general is called popular. When Krishna entered the arena of sacrifice, when he first came to Mathura, as he was invited by Kamsa to take part in he and Balaram, in the wrestling tournament. And they were, how old were they? Can't remember now. I always get this confused. Were they 12 or were they 16? I can't remember. Does anybody know? You can tell me here by message. Were they 12 or were they 16? How old were they? Anyway, when Krishna entered the arena of sacrifice arranged by King Kamsa as a ruse to bring about Krishna's and Balaram's death, that's why he invited them, to have them killed by the wrestlers, his big champions. All the sages cried out, Jai, 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 all glories, all victory to Krishna and Balaram. Krishna was a boy at that time. He wasn't even a man yet. And all the sages offered their respectful blessings to him. The demigods who were present, who also came there, also began to offer beautiful prayers to Krishna. And the ladies and the girls present expressed their joy from all corners of the arena. In other words, Krishna was so popular with everyone in the whole arena, even though none of them had ever seen him before. It's like he walks in. Yeah, exactly. Do you not think that it's going to be like that when he finally reveals himself to you? I think so. Okay, number 45. We're doing pretty good here. Almost at 50. Partial to the devotees. Krishna is partial to his devotees. Although Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is therefore not partial to anyone. God is always impartial. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that he has special attraction for the devotee who worships his name in love and affection. Manmana bhavamat bhakto madhyajimam namaskuru. Right? My dear, when Krishna was on this planet, one devotee expressed his feeling in this way. He said, my dear Lord, if you had not appeared on this planet, then the asuras, the demons and the villains, and atheists would have surely created even more mayhem against your devotees and people of faith. I cannot imagine the magnitude of such devastation which has been prevented by your presence. That's what I'm saying. Look at what's happening presently. The Rakshasas, the demons, the villains are forcing people to wear masks for a simple flu virus, and thereby creating an atmosphere of impersonalism, wiping out people's identities, creating an atmosphere, social distancing, causing disconnection from one another, including family members, including people in their dying on their deathbeds and their family can't go near them, including attending funerals. This is demoniac behavior. And forbidding people to congregate in churches, temples, and mosques to worship their God. This is the ultimate goal of atheism. All this is happening. Please bear in mind, my friends, the total deaths caused by the flu virus in the past year, so-called COVID. I know there's a COVID virus. I know that, okay? The number of deaths are no higher than in any previous year. So where's the pandemic? There's no pandemic. If there were a pandemic, my friends, 20% of the people would be dead, would be dying from it. Their bodies would be out in the middle of the streets, so they didn't infect the people in whose houses they died. Oh yeah. That's what's happening here. In truth. This is power grab. Number 46. God, Krishna is very attractive to all women. Any man who has special qualifications becomes immediately very attractive to women. He says, a devotee made the following statement about the queens of Dwarka. He said, how shall I describe the glories of the queens of Dwarka who were personally engaged in the service of the Lord? The Lord is so great that simply by chanting his name, all the great sages like Narada can enjoy transcendental bliss. So what can be said about those queens who were at every moment seeing the Lord and serving him personally? Krishna had 16,108 wives in his kingdom of Dwarka. You're going like, well, he must be a womanizer. No, he's God. Can you have 16,108 wives? Give it a shot. See if you can make it happen. Of course you can. It's not unusual for God. God's in everyone's heart. Don't forget. So he had 16,108 wives in Dwarka, and each and every one of them was attracted to Krishna. They were compelled. They were just drawn so strongly. It's a nice quote here. Prabhupada mentions, one devotee addressed Krishna, my dear Lord, you are just like a magnet. And all the damsels of Vraja, Vrindavan, are just like iron. In whichever direction you are moving, they are following you, as iron is attracted by magnetic force. Okay, so what does this mean for us? Most men want to be thought of as attractive to women. However, no matter how attractive we may be due to our beauty or material qualifications, these qualities will fade and wane with time. The attractive qualities that we possess that are spiritual in nature and that allow the light of the pure self to shine from us are the very qualities that will never fade, even throughout eternity. As souls, this is what makes us eternally attractive. All worshipable, number 47. A person who is respected and worshipped by all kinds of human beings and demigods is called Sarvaradhya, all worshipable. Krishna is worshipped not only by all living entities, including the great demigods like Shiva and Lord Brahma, but also by his Vishnu expansions, his other forms and avatars of the Godhead, such as Baladeva and Sheshanaga. Baladeva is a direct expansion of Krishna, but still he accepts Krishna as worshipable. When Krishna appeared in the arena of the Rajasuya sacrifice, organized by Maharaj Yudhishthir, to all present, including great sages and demigods, Krishna became the cynosure, the center of attraction, and everyone offered him respect. In fact, he was given the seat of honor at that sacrifice, Rajasuya. Okay, we're almost there. A couple more. Number 48. Krishna is all opulent. Krishna is full in all opulences, namely strength, wealth, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. Aishvaryasya samagrasya, viryasya, yashasa, shreya, jnana vairagya, yushchapi, shanangbhaga, itingana. Vishnu Purana. When Krishna was present in Dwarka, his family, which is known as the Yadu dynasty, consisted of 560 million members. Can you imagine? The current population of India is half that. Think about it. No, pardon me. No, that's about half the current population of India. The current population of India is double that. Sorry. And all these family members were very obedient and faithful to Krishna. There were more than 900,000 big palatial buildings in the city of Dwarka to house all the people, and every person in them respected Krishna as the most worshipable. Devotees and citizens were astonished to see the opulences of Krishna. Prabhupada continues, this was verified by Bilvamangal Thakur when in the Krishna Karnamrita he addressed Krishna thus, he said, "My dear Lord, what can I say about the opulence of your Vrindavan? Simply the ornaments on the legs of the damsels of Vrindavan are more than Chintamani, and their dresses are as good as the heavenly Parijata flowers. And the cows exactly resemble the Surabhi cows in the transcendental abode of the spiritual world. Therefore, your opulence is just like an ocean that no one can measure." Beautiful. So he says that the ornaments on the legs of the damsels are Chintamani. Chintamani means like a valuable stone, like a gemstone, but this is a touchstone. It gives whatever you want. It delivers it. It fulfills your desire. And Surabhi cows not only offer milk from their udders, they also, again, they're wish-fulfilling cows. Whatever you want, they give you. Mm-hmm. So what does this mean for us, all opulent, where we can't be as opulent as Krishna? What does it mean? It means all wealth, talents, abilities, skills, and opulences that we possess here in the material world must first be acknowledged as gifts and blessings from the Supreme Lord. The more we recognize this truth, and the more deeply and completely we enter into gratitude to Krishna for these blessings, the more effective will our opulences be in service to the world around us, and the greater impact they will have, and the longer such blessings will be felt in the world around us. Prabhupada is a perfect example of this. Simple man came over. He had only rupees in his pocket, which equated to about $7. Nothing, 1965. And for a year, he toughed it out in the Bowery in New York in Skid Row. Finally sat down under a tree in a square in Tompkins Square Park and began to jam to his cartels. And what happened? Slowly but surely. He had a handful of disciples initially. Next thing you know, it was a few hundred, then a few thousand. How many does he have now? How many people now endeavor to become Krishna conscious or regard themselves as devotees of Krishna? He couldn't even get the Indians interested in it back then. He had to come to the West and get us interested in it first so that the Indians would become interested in it, because the Indians were busy emulating the West. So this is the fusion, East and West. Nicely done. Now it's millions of people. That's Prabhupada. See? Can we do that? Yes. I mean, theoretically, we can do it. Okay, 2 more, and I'm done. All honorable, number 49. God, Krishna is all honorable. A person who is chief among all important persons is called honorable. When Krishna was living at Dwarka, demigods like Shiva and Brahma, Indra, the king of heaven, and many others used to come to visit him. The doorkeeper who had to manage the entrance of all these demigods one very busy day said, "My dear Lord Brahma, my dear Lord Shiva, please sit down on the bench and wait. My dear Indra, please desist from reading your prayers. This is creating a disturbance. Please wait silently. My dear Varuna, please go away. He cannot see you today. My dear demigods, do not waste your time uselessly. Krishna is very busy. He cannot see you." That's what he said. So what does all honorable mean for us? Trenadapi sunichina turor iva sahishnuna amanina amanadena kirtanya sadahari. We must become, take a position as low as the blade of grass. Humble. Toror iva sahishnuna. We must become as tolerant as a tree. Amanina, expecting no praise, no honor. Manadena, but giving praise and honor to others. Kirtaniya Sadahari, at that time, in that state, we will constantly chant the names of Hari, names of God. Finally, number 50, the Supreme Controller. That's as far as we'll go today. Last one. Krishna is the Supreme Controller. There are 2 kinds of controllers or lords. Prabhupada says one who's independent is called a controller, and one whose orders cannot be neglected by anyone is called a controller. Uddhava addressed Vidura, Lord Krishna, and he said, Lord Krishna is the master of the 3 modes of material nature. He is the enjoyer of all opulences, and therefore there is no one equal to or greater than him. All the great kings and emperors used to come before him to offer their gifts and pay obeisances with their helmets at the feet of the Lord. One devotee said, my dear Krishna, when you order Brahma, now go and create the universe. When you order Shiva, now is the time to dissolve this material manifestation. You are in this way creating and dissolving the material creation yourself. Simply by your orders and by the partial representation of Vishnu, like the Garbhodakshai Vishnu, Mahavishnu, Kshirodakshai Vishnu, you are maintaining the universes. In this way, O Krishna, O enemy of Kanks, there are so many Brahmas and Shivas in so many universes who are simply carrying out your orders. So what does this mean for us, the Supreme Controller? We should become the Supreme Controller? Not exactly. A controller is a leader A controller or a leader is one who leads his own life or who leads others. Some people don't want to lead anybody, but they want to lead their own lives. Some people are keen on leading others. And some of them are very, very, very good at leading others if they're doing it for the right reason. Always examine the intent behind a person's actions. Why does this person want to do this? What is his true intent? Discover the true intent of various people in any walk of life, and then you'll know whether you want to work for them, be with them, go with them, make partnership with them. It's intent, my friends. What is this guy really trying to get out of this? Look at yourself in the mirror. What is your true intent in any action? So, a controller. We have a Raja, a Maharaja, and a Chakravarti. A Raja is a king, a Maharaja is a great king, and a Chakravarti is an emperor or a sovereign who has many kingdoms within his sway. One who cannot even control his own senses, his own sense desire, is not actually worthy of being in a position of exerting control over others. And that's what the Shastra tells us. Unless you can control your own senses, how can you control anything or anyone else? That is directly from a spiritual point of view. Thank you, my friends. Thank you for your kind attention. I hope this has been of benefit to you in some meaningful way. So this is part 3 of recognizing God, the divine qualities. I will hope that part 4, whenever I get around to doing that, is going to be the last one. It's 64 qualities, takes up a lot of time. I'll probably see you next month. Wish you the best. May Krishna bless you always. Hare Krishna.